Now let's continue on with day 49 in Exodus 20. And then he gave the rest of the commandments of God after the Sabbath: no murder, no adultery, no stealing, no false witness, no coveting. Now, you take all of those laws, put them all together, and if you would run a small town that way today, it would be what I would call Perfectville. Everyone would love each other, watch out for each other. There'd be no crime. There'd be no adultery, no stealing, no idolatry, and you'd all worship the same God. Hey, that's a taste of the millennium. Now let's continue on here, okay? Now here's how the people reacted and Moses reacted to them. See? Then we will see what happened after that, because then God makes a covenant with them. Okay? Verse 18, Exodus 20. And all the people saw the thundering, the lightning, the sound of the trumpet, and the mountain smoking. And when the people saw, they trembled and stood afar off. And they said to Moses, "You speak with us, and we will hear. But let not God speak with us, lest we die." Now, what an accusation. Think about it. That's the way that people like it. A man between God and them. So if something goes wrong, you can accuse the man. See? And Deuteronomy 5, God said of them, in that account of the same thing, "Oh, that there were such a heart in them that they would love me and keep my commandments." See? Quite a thing. All right? So what did Moses say? Moses said to the people, "Do not fear, for the Lord has come to prove you." Now think about that in relationship with the New Testament. What is happening? We are being proved or approved for eternal life. Because that means forever. So God wants to know what you're going to do forever. That's why we are to be faithful unto death and then be resurrected. Okay? To prove you so that his fear may be before your faces so that you may not sin. Look, Moses said, look, hey, don't be afraid. God is doing this so that you will not sin. In other words, if you keep all the words that he said here, you won't be sinning. That's amazing. Okay. And the people stood far off, and Moses drew near to the thick darkness and where God was, and the Lord said to Moses, "Thus shall you say to the children of Israel, you have seen correction. You have seen that I have talked with you from heaven. You shall not make with me gods of silver, nor shall you make gods of gold for yourself. You shall make an altar of earth to the Lord, and shall sacrifice upon it your burnt offerings and your peace offerings, your sheep and your oxen, in all the places where I record my name, I will come to you and will bless you." Okay. Later, he gave them all the instructions to build a tabernacle. Okay. Then we find, now I want you to read all of Exodus 21, 22, 23, and ask yourself the question this, okay? Which is, if everyone followed what God said, wouldn't the world be a whole lot better place? See? And there's nothing here that people can't understand. There are no technical phrases, and it doesn't matter what languages it is in, it's the same. Okay? Then ask yourself, if they kept all these laws, wouldn't it be a better place? Yes. Now then, let's come here to chapter 23 and verse 13, where he says, "Be watchful in all that I have said to you, and make no mention of the name of other gods, neither let it be heard out of your mouths. You shall keep a feast unto me 3 times in a year." Now, this is what the people hate out in the world. Oh, we love our Christmas, our Halloween, our Easter. Oh, we're so righteous and good. No, God says that's an abomination. You keep it 3 times in a year unto God. Right here, and they said, all the words that God has spoken, we will do. Okay? Now, let's come here to chapter 24. Now, God wants this done publicly, known, understood. So that's why we have chapter 24. Now, this is slightly after Pentecost. How far after Pentecost, we don't know. A day or two, we're not told. So chapter 24, here's what God said. This is what he wanted. Let's read it. "And he said to Moses, Come up to the Lord, you and Aaron, Nadab and Abihu, and 70 of the elders of Israel, and worship afar off. And Moses alone shall come near the Lord, but they shall not come near. Neither shall the people go up with him. And Moses came and told the people all the words," read it there, chapter 21, 22, and 23, all the words, okay, of the Lord, and all the judgments, and all the people answered with one voice, all the words which the Lord has said, we will do. Now remember this, whenever you tell God what you're going to do, you better do it. Now in the New Testament, Jesus said, relating to this, let your yes be yes and your no be no. No vacillating back and forth. And changing a little here, changing a little there, so you can weasel out of it. Okay? And he said, and Moses alone shall come up near the Lord, but they shall not come near, neither shall the people go up with him. And Moses came and told the people all the words of the Lord and all the judgments. All the people answered with one voice and said, all the words which the Lord has said we will do. He read every one of these things to them. Okay? Moses wrote all the words of the Lord and rose up early in the morning, built an altar at the base of the mountain, made 12 pillars according to the 12 tribes of Israel. And he sent young men of the children of Israel who offered burnt offerings and sacrificed peace offerings of bullocks to the Lord. And Moses took half the blood, put it in a basin, and half the blood he sprinkled on the altar. Okay? So that's signifying God's part of it. And he took the book of the covenant, read in the ears of all the people, And they said, all that the Lord has said we will do, and be obedient. And Moses took the blood and sprinkled it on the people and said, behold, the blood of the covenant which the Lord has made with you concerning these words. So on the people, on the book, and on the altar. And Moses went up, and Aaron, Nadab, Abihu, and 70 of the elders of Israel. And they saw the God of Israel, not in his full glory, because no one can look upon God in his full glory and live. And there under his feet, as it were, a paved work of sapphire stone, a sea of glass. Now, we will see that again in the book of Revelation tomorrow. Sapphire stone, and as it were, the heavens in clearness. So they all saw it. See? Everyone could say, all the 70 of the elders of Israel could say, we know this was God. We saw through this emerald-like pavement of stone that God was walking on it. We saw God. Now, they didn't get up to talk to him, but they saw him. So they're witnesses of the covenant. Now, think about that in relationship to everything that happened with the children of Israel on their journey to the promised land. See? The 70 of the elders saw God. They heard God first. They heard his words. They heard what Moses read. And all the way along they said, all that the Lord has said we will do and be obedient. And now God then confirms it with a sacrifice. And then walking on the pavement of sapphire so they can look and see that this is God. What a magnificent thing, all 70 of them, see? That's something. And they saw the God of Israel, and there was under his feet, as it were, a paved work of sapphire stone, and as it were, the heavens in clearness. And upon the nobles of the children of Israel he did not lay his hands. Also they saw God and ate and drank. So they had a feast right there. And the Lord said to Moses, come up to me in the mountain and be there, and I will give you tables of stone and the law and commandments which I have written, so that you may teach them. Okay? And Moses rose up, and his attendant Joshua. And Moses went up into the mountain of God, and he said to the elders, wait here for us until we come again to you. And behold, Aaron and Hur are with you. If any man has a cause, let him come to them. And Moses went up into the mountain, and a cloud covered the mountain, and the glory of the Lord abode upon Mount Sinai, and the cloud covered 6 days. And the 7th day he called Moses. Now you have to wait 7 days. Think of that. He called Moses out of the midst of the cloud, and in the sight of the glory of the Lord was like a consuming fire on the top of the mountain to the eyes of the children of Israel. So they saw the top of the mountain burning continually. Okay. And Moses went up into the midst of the cloud, went up into the mountain, and Moses was in the mountain 40 days and 40 nights. So we have this. We have Pentecost. We have how many ever days from Pentecost and giving of the 10 Commandments to the confirming of the covenant. Then we have, he waited 7 days. So we're looking at about 14 days altogether. Okay? So there it is. Now the covenant, what did God say? The reason all of this was done. See? And they missed the whole point completely. We'll see in just a little bit. They missed the whole point completely. Okay? Let's come to chapter 25, verse 8. One verse. Everything else from here on through chapter 31 pertains to the tabernacle and the altars and everything to do with the workings of the tabernacle that the priest would attend to. Why? What did God want? Verse 8, and let them make me a sanctuary so that I may dwell among them. God wanted to put his presence with the children of Israel, that he would dwell among them with his presence in the tabernacle, to be their God. And for them to know that, yes, if you love God, if you keep his commandments, if you obey his voice, you'll have every blessing. But compared to that, what it was in Egypt. God called them out of Egypt, where they had paganism, homosexuality, incest, bestiality, Satanism, witchcraft, all of that. And that's what the children of Israel were doing in Egypt. So God called them out of it and brought them through all of this so that they could come to him and be his people. And he be with them as he had promised Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Okay? Now, another thing to remember. When God gives a promise, he keeps it. Now, if the one to whom he gave the promise sins, like happened with David and Bathsheba, after God promised that there would always be a man sit on the throne of David, God did not change his mind about the promise of a man sitting on the throne of David forever. But what did he do to David? David, even after he repented, suffered the penalty of sin, that his whole family turned against him, and there was rebellion to overthrow him, to try and put Absalom in charge instead of David. But David repented. Finally, God caused the penalty and punishment to settle down, and then he came to the end of his life, and the kingdom went to Solomon. Remember this, God always keeps his promises. Okay? So he gave them the 10 Commandments, correct? He had it verified by everything that we covered. And this started with leaving Egypt and then coming to Mount Sinai on the day of Pentecost, hearing the 10 Commandments, and then all of the other lesser commandments with it. And then Moses was up there for 40 days and 40 nights getting all of the instructions of God. See? How do we live? What do we do? How do we make the tabernacle? Well, you can read all of that, Exodus 25, Exodus 26, 27, 28, okay? Everything in finite detail, okay? 29 and 30, okay? That's quite a thing. Now remember, on top of Mount Sinai, It was burning with fire all that 40 days and 40 nights. So then what happened? The children of Israel got impatient. Okay? And isn't that what happens to us? We get impatient with God because he doesn't do for us what we think he should do for us when we think he should do it. Well, remember, it's all in God's hands. Whatever you ask him. And ask him in humility and belief and sincerity and love. Don't ask him to, God, I'm going to test you. Now, you do this and I'll believe you. Well, God doesn't work that way. See? So let's see what happened. Children of Israel, after everything that they went through, see? Let's come to Exodus 31. Okay? So then God told him that he had called certain ones to do certain things, to build the tabernacle and to make it. God gave him all the instructions. All right? Now, come to verse 12, Exodus 31. And the Lord spoke to Moses, saying, I love the way that is all throughout the Bible. The Lord spoke, saying, here to Moses, other places to Joshua, later to Samuel, later to the prophets. See? All the word of God spoken to the one that God wanted to write it down. See? And he chose the ones who were faithful to give it to the people the way God wanted. See? And he did that because the people said, oh, we can't hear the voice of God. We're going to die. So God still kept his promise and sent it by Moses, written down, and 2 tablets of stone that God cut out. And that God wrote on it the 10 Commandments with his own finger. See? Direct from God to Moses to put into the temple, to sanctify the Ark of the Covenant, and to have God put his presence in the Holy of Holies and be their God. That's what God wanted. But the children of Israel, we'll see here, got impatient. Let's see how God finalizes everything between Moses and God and instruction to the people. Verse 13. Speak to the children of Israel, saying, truly, that means in truth. See? Truly, you shall keep my Sabbaths. See, because in the instructions, he gave all the holy days. Plural, Sabbaths, my Sabbaths. Now you come to Leviticus 23, and these are the feast or Sabbaths of the Lord of times that God has appointed, and we're on that one today on the weekly Sabbath and tomorrow on Pentecost. That God said, come on this day and I'll meet with you. An amazing thing, right? And here's what he said, speak to the children of Israel, saying, truly, keep my Sabbaths. Plural. For it, that is the keeping of. For it, the keeping of, is a sign between me and you throughout your generations to know that I am the Lord who sanctifies you. Now think about that. Sanctify means makes you holy, blesses you. It is God who does that. What is the condition for doing it? Keeping his Sabbath. And that sanctifies us. What do we have in the New Testament? What did Jesus say about sanctifying us? He said in his final prayer, your word is the truth. Sanctify them with your word. Or in other words, make them holy with your word. That's what sanctify means, see? That sanctifies you. You shall keep the Sabbath therefore, for it is holy to you. Everyone that defiles it shall surely be put to death. 4. Whoever does any work on it, that soul shall be cut off from among his people. That means if you're among the people of God and you don't keep the Sabbath, God is going to withdraw his blessing from you. See? That he's giving to all the rest of the people. 6 days may work be done, but on the seventh day is the Sabbath of rest, holy to the Lord. If it's holy to the Lord, it should be holy to us. Right? Yes. Whoever does any work on the Sabbath day, he shall surely be put to death. And what does the New Testament say? Sin is transgression of the law. The wages of sin is death. See, so there's no difference. The law always functions the same. Therefore the children of Israel shall keep the Sabbath to observe the Sabbath throughout their generations. Now listen up to this. As a perpetual covenant. Now that means there's no turning back. See? Now let's just do a little something here to understand what this means. Perpetual means forever, as long as there is God and as long as there are the people of God, physical people. Okay? Is God still here? Yes. Are the people still here? Yes. What does God require? The Sabbath every week, every week, every week, every week, every week, every week, all the way down through time. Now, to show you the faithfulness of God, when they were the 40 years in the wilderness, in spite of their sins, God gave them manna for 40 years. Now, you would think after 40 years, right? And that's way beyond what we're talking about here in chapter 31. But after 40 years, you would think they would know which day was the Sabbath and know automatically what to do and how to keep it, correct? Don't you think 40 years of receiving manna, 6 days a week, the sixth day twice as much as the regular? And if you kept it over the first 5 days, it bred worms and stunk. But on the sixth day, it didn't do it, because you could eat it on the Sabbath. So God kept performing the miracles to feed the children of Israel for 40 years. Think on that. In spite of their sins. That's an amazing thing to understand. Okay? Verse 16, therefore the children of Israel shall keep the Sabbath to observe the Sabbath throughout their generations as a perpetual covenant. It is a sign between me and the children of Israel forever. For in 6 days the Lord made the heavens and the earth, and on the seventh day he rested and was refreshed. That's an amazing thing. Okay? So this was the final message of God to close off all the teachings that Moses received during the 40 days and 40 nights that he was up on the mountain. Okay? That's amazing. And he gave to Moses, when he had made an end of speaking with him upon Mount Sinai, 2 tablets of the testimony, tablets of stone written by the finger of God. That's quite amazing. Okay? Now let's see how the people were. How did they respond? Okay? If things don't go the way people think they ought to go, and they take into their hands to do something they shouldn't do, it's going to cause a lot of problems. Regardless, this is just one account, but in every account, everywhere down through time. Okay? And didn't we see that in our day? Yes. They changed the truth of God into a lie and accepted Sunday, the Lord's Supper, Christmas, and Easter, and New Year's, and rejected the Sabbath and holy days of God. Same thing that they did here in Exodus 32. See? Because it didn't work out the way that they had thought, and because there were difficulties within which could have been solved the right way, but they didn't want to solve them the right way. And they didn't want to have faithful men in charge to run it. They wanted to have men who would do the bidding of people, and as it were, the subversives coming in from the Protestants to take down the Church of God. Okay? Well, it's very similar to what we have here in Exodus 32. So let's read it. When the people saw that Moses delayed to come down from the mountain, then the people gathered themselves to Aaron and said to him, "Up! Make us gods which shall go before us. For this Moses, the man who brought us up out of the land of Egypt, we don't know what has become of him." He'd been up there more than 40 days and 40 nights, plus 7. And the fire's going. Maybe he fell into the fire. It's a volcano on top there. Maybe he's dead. So Aaron, make us gods. So Aaron, here's what he should have said. Now hold on, everybody. God is true. God is righteous. God is holy. God is a God of love. He's giving instructions and understanding to Moses, so we will wait patiently until he comes, even if it takes a whole lot longer. So calm down. Don't come and demand something that you should not have and that you should not do, because that would be breaking the commandments of God and bringing upon you and all that would be involved a curse. No. Aaron didn't do that, did he? No, let's see what he did. And Aaron said to them, "Break off the golden earrings which are in the ears of your wives, your sons, and your daughters, and bring them to me." And all the people broke off the golden earrings which were in their ears and brought them to Aaron, and he took them from their hand and fashioned with an engraving tool and made a molten calf. Now the calf was one of the gods of Egypt, and it had horns up like this, and between the horns was a whole full sun disk. Sun worship. Sunday. Nothing has changed down through time, right? Right. Interesting When you read this, it makes you wonder, what was Aaron's occupation in Egypt? Was he an idol maker? How did he know how to make a calf? How did he know how to fashion the gold? We don't know for sure, but it sure sounds like it. And made a molten calf. And they said, "These are your gods, O Israel." Now they, that must be Aaron and those who were helping him, "who brought you up out of the land of Egypt." And when Aaron saw the calf, he built an altar before it, and Aaron made a proclamation saying, "Tomorrow is a feast to the Lord." Idol worship, and call it a feast to the Lord, who says, "You shall not make any image of anything." Tomorrow's a feast to the Lord. So they rose up early in the morning, all excited. Oh, this is going to be good. We're going to have a feast, and this is going to be a good feast like we had back in Egypt. This is going to be, we'll have music, we'll have dancing, we'll have orgies, we'll have the whole things. Offered burnt offerings and peace offerings, and the people sat down to eat and drink and rose up to play. Okay? Quite a thing. Okay? And the Lord said to Moses, "Go, get you down, for your people whom you brought up out of the land of Egypt have corrupted themselves and have turned aside quickly out of the way which I commanded them. They have made them a golden calf and have worshipped it and sacrificed to it and said, 'These are your gods, O Israel, who brought you out of the land of Egypt.'" Okay? Well, God was ready to destroy all the people, but what happened? Moses intervened, spared them. God heard Moses, spared the people, and spared Aaron, except those who were directly involved in it. So, that's quite a lesson, because all of this flows from coming to Mount Sinai, and then the Sabbath before, giving of the Ten Commandments, and all of the time after that. That's all connected together. So it's a great lesson for us. Day 49 means this: we must always remain faithful to God, regardless of how long it is for him to fulfill and carry out what he has promised. So tomorrow, we will see how it fills out in the New Testament.